Now, with the Ricardo Calafiori deal looked to be done, Arsenal now move on to looking at new midfielders to bring in, with the news that Smith Rowe will be leaving the club. Now, the left centre mid spot has been a position of interest for Arsenal over the last few years, and there's been many people linked in this transfer window. One cheap alternative I looked at before was Fabián Ruiz, who Arsenal looked to be interested in and could make him their priority signing this year. So let's get into how he can fit Arsenal's system and actually make them better despite being a cheap signing. Let's get into it. Now, overall, I am very excited about the rumours with Fabián Ruiz. I'm not sure if it's actually going to happen because I think Merino is probably more realistic, and I still like Merino as a sign itself, but Fabián Ruiz offers something completely different and at the cheap price of around 20 to 30 million euros because PSG simply just do not play this guy enough. I think it's definitely a value for money signing that Arsenal should definitely look at. Now, to put it bluntly, Fabián Ruiz is a left-footed central midfielder that can sort of do everything in midfield, and over his career at his different teams he has showed a different level of attacking and defensive work, which is all mixed up into one that makes him a really good player. Now, of course, he was a standout player at Euro 2024. In my personal opinion, he was the best player at Euro 2024, and I think he really excelled in obviously a brilliant Spanish system against other brilliant players, but in my opinion he was way more impactful than Rodri was. And Fabián Ruiz proved in the tournament that he's actually very much a zone dominator in his left half space, or anywhere on the pitch you really put him, but that's the space he operates the best at. He will pretty much do anything in that space within the team to help them, if that's passing, if that's defending, if that's off the ball movement, or even if that's making some really good late runs into the box. He's very good at doing it. And because he is so good all round, even though predominantly he plays as an 8, he can be moved into a double pivot 6 role with usually someone who's more defensive next to him, which we've seen Spain move into midway through games to hold leads, which he's done a lot, where he sat next to Rodri, which obviously could be an option for Arsenal, and he can potentially play attacking midfield later on in games as well. Early on in his career he probably played a lot more in attacking midfield from the start, but now he has moved into more of a freedom hybrid role where he is more of an 8 and he's more deeper in the pitch. The first thing as well is that he is a very active player. He is left-footed and he loves being in that left half space of the pitch because it's obviously a better angle for him, but he does love running around. Obviously he has the defensive input, but this is his touch map against France in the Euros. You can see that he does not mind going around the pitch to pick the ball up, and 78 touches is a very big involvement in the game considering he's next to Rodri. There's even parts of the game where he's coming back into right back to help, and he's doing it quite a lot with a few touches being there, and even going back in defense, being able to build up from him and turn and giving space up. He is able to do this through his sheer amount of progressive plays that he does. Now, his progressive plays were definitely lower down last year because he isn't really a starter for PSG, which has been well documented, and although he's on his stats it would say he's a pass heavy carry second player, I actually think he's a very good carrier as well. Now, last season he made around 6.24 progressive passes per 90 and around 1.5 carries, so not a lot of carries where he's been able to pick the ball up, but with PSG's players in front of him that could kind of make a little bit more sense. In the Euros as well he made 23 progressive passes in the first 5 games of the tournament, not obviously including the final. And a lot of the times they are him coming into a central position and being able to shift the ball out wide. This could be even down to the left side or the right side. It's quite comfortable for him to do either, and it can help get the wingers in 1v1s or 2v1 situations, which was very much predominantly very good for Spain throughout the tournament. And in the Euros, not only did he make 24% of his passes were being forward passes, which was actually a lot more than Rodri, who is sitting at 18%, he actually made a lot of line breaking passes and actually made the 3rd most in the tournament behind Xhaka and Kroos from a midfielder perspective through the midfield line breaking passes. Now, these are more important because they basically are passes that take out a whole position or whole system in a team. A defender does it, it'll probably be down to the attacking line, and a midfielder does it, it's through from the midfield to the defenders. This is very important to get your team into them special 1v1s or 2v1 situations and get your wingers and strikers up the pitch a lot more. And in the tournament he did 41 of them going into the final through the midfield, which are very important and show a lot of encouragement there with someone trying to get the ball forward a lot. And to show he also has a lot of encouragement on the ball, he's actually very good in tight areas. When players come towards him, he's got a brilliant dribbling style, which he showed in the Euros, but he's also been very good at PSG with it, where he can just keep the ball in settled possession and put little good passes through, and is always trying to make that encouraging through pass. He's also pretty good obviously defensively, his carries are decent, but he's pretty good at going past players as well. Over 1 successful take-on per 90, and having an 82% success rate with take-ons, which is in the top 1% of European midfielders, show that he's even being very smart when he's actually going to take the ball forward. He knowing that he's only going against midfielders that he knows he can beat, and that he can easily do that. If you need that quick transition up the pitch, he's got the ability to bring the ball forward. With the fact he has decent total carrying distance and decent carries per game, it might not always be progressive, but at least it helps the team get up the pitch in some way or another. And while I'd say he probably doesn't have the best long passing, his medium range passing is very encouraging, around 92% completion, which is between 15 and 30 meters. His passing overall is at a very good level. He plays for teams that have a lot of the ball, like Napoli before and now PSG, so he'd be very used to that change around Arsenal. But how good is he at other things in the game? Well, going forward, it's probably the most encouraging thing about him, and it's probably why people consider him as more of an attacking midfielder, which I don't really. Per game, he has around 1.5 shots per 90, which is quite a lot. I don't know if you want your 8s always doing that, but he's got around 0.25 assists, which is very high, and around 3 shot creating actions per 90, which is obviously lower than he's usually had because he's playing for PSG, who don't play him enough. And going forward, I would say he's a very smart player. In the Euros, he was one of the highest attacking sequence involvements the whole competition, sitting at around 45 before the final started, having around 15 shots and 9 chances created. So he is a little bit of a shot heavy guy, which could put off Arsenal, but sometimes I think they need to take that shot rather than playing the extra pass. And overall, he has such a high passing level that it does create chances. I mean, in the European Championship final itself, he 7 passes into the final third, created a chance and made 53 of his 61 passes. Not only that, he had 14 duels and won 7 and lost 7, so he's getting himself about and being physical. And overall, the more time and space you give, he is going to make risky passes that not always come through, but with his technical ability, sometimes and most of the time they do. He's very much a risk and reward player, which sometimes I think Arsenal need against low blocks. And there is a lot of comparisons to Xhaka in the first place. Not only is he a player that does line breaking passes like Xhaka does all the time, did in the Euros, did for Arsenal, he's someone that likes to crash the box late, which is something we've tried before with other players, and is very much what Fabián Ruiz is good at. He's someone that loves being on that back post, on that left half space, because obviously he's left footed, and he makes smart runs into the box when he feels it's necessary, and when teams are caved in or penned in, when the team has sustained possession, which is something Arsenal like to do, especially against the smaller teams. His late runs into the box could definitely give us more options, and at 6'2", he is decent in the air. He's not elite in the air, but with his height and physicality, he's definitely got that level. Now, of course, a progressive player in that left centre mid spot would obviously give us a lot more progression to the left winger and give us a lot more pressure there, and I think would balance the team out. But not only that, if we are up in a lead, it also can be conservative, which is something Arteta likes to do with playing Jorginho. We necessarily wouldn't have to. We could go straight into a double pivot when holding out for a lead. And although Ruiz for PSG specifically hasn't done the most highest defensive work out there, throughout his career he has shown a decent defensive level at around 2 tackles per game, 1.5 blocks and 1.5 clearances at his last season in Naples. But it's not just that, it's the fact that he's getting into loads of duels per game. He's been able to fight for the team, but he's also being smart when he has the ball, and he's a brilliant passer. And compared to Mourinho, he's definitely a better passer and a better attacking player, but defensively his stats aren't that far off him as well. He maybe isn't getting the same amount of tackles and blocks, but that could be due to how much the team actually have the ball compared to Sociedad, even though obviously both teams are very possession based sides. Of course, he could always sign both of them because they are different players, but I think these two, or specifically Fabián Ruiz, would really help the team be a lot balanced, and for a cheap deal I really think it should be worth it. However, there obviously is other things you have to consider. In my last video I spoke about him rejecting us before, which he did a few years ago, and although PSG don't play him and they may apparently want a loan with a mandatory buy option, which we can definitely do, it's obviously completely up in the air because PSG can be a bit strange with transfers and may not accept it in the end. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you think about him in the comments, and do you think Arsenal should go out and get him, or do you think they should get Mourinho as well or instead? Let me know in the comments. Thank you guys for watching, and please subscribe for any more Arsenal content. See you tomorrow.